Good afternoon, everybody. I'll move this up here. Welcome to this fourth presentation for academic year 2020 of the InterAgency Brown-Bag Lecture Series. My name is Rod Cox. I'm with the Command General Staff College Foundation, and it's our pleasure to partner with the Command General Staff School, Colonel Scott Green and Marv Nichols, to present you this lecture series that hopefully adds to the education in the interagency arena for folks that are here at Fort Leavenworth and part of the college. I want to give a thank you to our named program sponsors, First Command Financial Planning. We really appreciate y'all's support, and I'm not quite sure what she's saying to me over there, but there's lunches over here if you'd like them. One of the programs that they offer for largely for students, but for folks who sign up through First Command and let them know that you're coming to the brown bags, they provide a brown bag lunch for you, or in this case, a white bag lunch for you to have. So there's two up there if you'd like to have them for something to eat. Please help yourselves. Once again, though, thanks to our sponsors, because we couldn't do these programs that enhance the things here at school without our various program sponsors. Our next brown bag administrative note will be the 10th of December, so not too long after the holiday here, and that'll be the Defense Intelligence Agency right here at 12:30, 1:30 on 10 December, and you're all invited to that as well, please. Now, today's presentation should be kind of interesting. I know we have an interesting mix of folks in the crowd here, not a whole lot of students, maybe one or two students. Yep, thanks for coming. But a senior audience, and actually that's kind of gratifying because in reality that's where the impact of the Federal Executive Board kind of lies. And what I would tell a group of students that were here is this is something for them to look forward in their careers, but obviously those of you that are sitting here should have some impact and realization of what this organization is able to do for not only the position you're in here in our community at Fort Leavenworth with the greater metropolitan area, but also where else you might be stationed in senior positions around the Army. So the Federal Executive Board, it serves as kind of a chamber of commerce, if you will, for federal agencies, and it provides synergistic services and support that a lot of government agencies find very useful, and from a taxpayer standpoint, very helpful on spending of funds. There are federal executive boards across the country, and Mr. Hisle, I know, is going to talk about that in his brief, but they work largely in the metropolitan areas across the country, assisting agencies and federal employees and the communities that they live in. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what's this have to do with our talk here, especially since we're national security centered? But it goes back to what I initially said was the impact this has on our ability to interact and work with our partners outside the gate, whether that's ranging from the whole entity of actually deploying or readying forces, all the way through to employment of family members, to just interaction in the community. It's the kind of things we promote through our chambers of commerce and our military affairs councils. The chamber is able to help in those areas as well. They also perform a duty that Mr. Hisle is going to talk about, where they provide services that save us taxpayer dollars, and you'll find this to be interesting, as well as he's talked to me about a couple of new initiatives that, because of the good work that they do here in the Kansas City metropolitan area, that they've been able to do as far as talking about employment opportunities and some of the new things that have been in the news with some of the agencies that are moving out here to the Midwest. So it's my pleasure to introduce our today's presenter. Mr. Larry Hisle has led the Kansas City Federal Executive Board since 2013. He took that position after serving as a senior program manager at the Office of Personnel Management. He holds a BBA from Thomas Edison State University and is very active as a community volunteer in the metropolitan area. Please welcome the Executive Director of the Greater Kansas City Executive Board, Mr. Larry Hisle.
Okay, thank you, Rod. Appreciate it. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know I'm not as interesting as the CIA or Defense Intelligence Agency, but I think I will enlighten you on some of the things that we'll discuss today. We'll talk about the Federal Executive Board Network and a little bit about the federal government here in the Kansas City area, just kind of to bring to light some of those other agencies that are out there. Now, how many of you, who can guess how many federal employees are based outside the Beltway? Percentage-wise?
50%.
50%. A little bit more. They would make you believe that. 85% of the federal employees are based outside the Washington, D.C. or the Beltway area. So back in 1963 and before that, during the Eisenhower administration, they started thinking about how can we communicate better with our employees out in the other part of the country. So they came up with a program called the Federal Executive Board, which kind of made that happen. And we'll explain how that goes. So I am the executive director. I'm the only employee right now, so I can call myself whatever I want. But you know, so it is kind of a lean staff. There usually is 2 of us, but we do cover in the Kansas City area. We're one of 28, and we'll show you the other FEBs across the country. But in the Kansas City area, we cover basically the metropolitan Kansas City area, including Fort Leavenworth. So what is the program? As you see, it was established by President Kennedy in 1961 to provide coordination across the country for those 85% of the employees. It is overseen and directed by the Office of Personnel Management. So located in 28 agencies or 28 cities across the country, either in regional cities like Kansas City or in a large area of the federal population. And it is really there to provide a forum which federal leaders can collaborate to accomplish combined goals. Here in the Kansas City area, we have 160 different federal agencies that all report directly to DC. So it's my job to get them to communicate and collaborate as much as possible. So a lot of times, yes, it's like herding cats. But, you know, again, we're there to kind of help with that mission. Here you kind of see where the FEBs are across the country. Many of you see the shaded area where it's the regions and the cities within that, and then the other areas that have a large amount of federal population. So, again, why the FEB? Well, all these, like I said, 160 different federal agencies all reporting directly to DC. A lot of times, even if they are within the same department, they don't communicate locally. They don't know what each other's doing. So we offer a way for them to network and collaborate and learn a little bit more about themselves. The purpose, strengthen the coordination, provide closer collaboration as well. So we do this, you know, there is an old saying that once you've seen one FEB, you've seen one FEB, because we all do things a little bit different. But we do have 3 main business lines that we all focus on. One being intergovernmental and interagency collaboration or strategic partnerships, emergency preparation, security and employee safety, and then workforce development and support. And we'll go into more detail as far as what we did in the fiscal year of 2019 to kind of give you an idea of what some of our services are. Okay, so what is the FEB board? Well, the board is actually made of the most senior official of every federal agency. So as soon as a new commanding general comes in on post, they're going to be a FEB member. Now, a lot of times, Mr. Formica will be the designated member, or Steve Nolan back there actually comes regularly to our board meetings. But the most senior official at each agency is that FEB member. So I'm really just really the staff person that helps them. So automatically, as soon as they take that position, they're part of that. Now the size and the participation, it varies. We have 9 working committees, and we'll talk about that. So some agencies are very, participate quite a bit on all 9 of the agencies, or all 9 of the committees, but some are not able to. We include a board person, vice chairs. We'll show you a structure here in a second. And we do represent the civilian, military, postal, law enforcement, courts programs. Kansas City presence. Again, Kansas City is the largest employer in the federal government is the largest employer in the region. With the federal employees and contractors, we have over 41,000 employees. 38 of them are federal employees outright as well. You can kind of see, kind of hazy, but you can kind of see who the top agencies are there. Of course, DOD, especially with Fort Leavenworth, and we also include Whiteman Air Force Base in that is included. The Veterans Affairs, Department of Treasury. We'll talk about some of those agencies specifically. So, some unique things, unique agencies in the Kansas City area. We are the entry point. We are the new Ellis Island, if you will, for immigration in the United States. So every immigration application comes to Kansas City, either in the National Benefits Center, either in Lee Summit or in Overland Park. All the card processing, the green cards, the red cards are all done in Kansas City. And the records, once everything is done, is located in the caves in Kansas City. So not only that, providing security to our country, we already know that Fort Leavenworth is in the area and the intellectual college for the Department of Army, if not for the DOD itself. Lake City Army Ammunition Plant makes the small arms for all the DOD as well as NATO allies. And then the National Nuclear Security Administration, just south of the metro area, makes 85% of all nuclear weapon parts are made out of that building. Nothing radioactive, but they put most of the stuff together. We're watching the skies, not only with the Olathe Air Traffic Control Center, which covers bits of 12 states throughout the Midwest area. We also have the National Aviation Severe Weather Center, which covers the Western Hemisphere for all aviation traffic. So again, all in Kansas City. We are also the nation's checkbook. So we take in the money, the IRS campus down right off Crown Center or Union Station. That by 2025, that will be one of only 2 campuses left in the United States that will be working the taxes. But also, we also have the Bureau of Fiscal Service, which sends out 99.9% of all payments on behalf of the federal government. So when you get your first Social Security check, it's coming out of that office there. It also, any State Department grants or such like that comes out of that office. And since Smithsonian already has the nation's attic, I can't use that, so I call it the storage pod. With National Archives and Social Security and U.S. Postal Service, IRS, we store more federal records in the Kansas City area than any other location across the country. Any questions about any of these agencies or any others? So, there we go. Oh, sorry about that. So here's our structure. Like I said, the FEB member is the senior most official. Our structure comes from the president to the OPM to our chairperson. Our current chairperson is Michael Copeland, who's the regional administrator for our General Services Administration. Our 2 staff people, and then 3 vice chairs that work on the mission statements and then the different committees that come along with that, and we'll go into those. So let's talk about our lines of business, if you will. Emergency preparedness and security and employee safety. I think this is probably our most important one because, again, ultimately that's what, we want to make sure we have a strong workforce, but we also have a strong, safe workforce. So the FEB helps with that by collecting and sharing emergency information. So first of all, we have our emergency dismissal plan. So in the Kansas City area, we have what we call our 3 a.m. club. So if there's a heavy snow that comes through or ice storm, we have our key folks that get up at 3 a.m., start calling the Weather Service, Highway Department, FAA, TSA, to make a recommendation on behalf of all the agencies, whether they should, open late, be closed. They're not, I would tell you that the federal government is not closed down in the Kansas City area unless there is a declaration of from one of the governors to ask us to stay off the road so they can clear them. Most often what we try to do is we'll meet the day before, since many of the federal employees are eligible to telework. We'll get a message out to them by noon the day before to say, hey, take your computer home. You have no excuse. We will be open. You will be working. We may close the offices to the public, but we're not going to, we're not going to stop the federal government from working. Any guess as far as if the government does shut down in Kansas City, how much dollars that affects? For one day, $10 million. So again, we need to make sure that we're up and running, not only for the citizens in the Kansas City area, but also for the country. We also oversee a closed points of dispensing, or pods. What that is, in case of an influenza breakout or anthrax scare or attack, we have 4 closed pods for our federal employees that they can go to and get medications for themselves, their families, and their extended families, if you will. So we were the first city in the country to have an agreement with our local health department to allow us access to this medication. So we have 400 federal volunteers trained to do that. So again, if something happens, we have all anyone has to do is bring their federal ID, show it at with the closed pod. They pick up their medication for themselves, again, their families, their extended families, and they're on their way. They don't have to stand in line at Arrowhead Stadium or a conference center to try to get the medication. Now, it does sound self-serving, but actually the health department is thrilled with that, because it really, when you take in the multiplying effect, it takes 160,000 people off their roster of responsibility. So we're also a pilot city to take our volunteers also back out into the public once we have our staff taken care of to assist in the public staffing as well. But again, that we were the first to set that up. We have an emergency notification system that we monitor if we, again, in a true need of notification of an emergency, we can get hold of all of our key staff. We oversee the Field Federal Safety Health Council. That is the OSHA for the government. We know OSHA is for corporations. The Field Federal Safety Health Council is the OSHA for the federal government agencies. And then we also oversee a Kansas City Regional COOP Working Group. We were, again, back in 2014, and we're going to talk about just briefly what our prep was for this year. Or 2004, we put together the first KC RICE, which stands for Regional Interagency COOP exercise. Most of you may know if a federal agency or office is put out a commission, they have 24 hours to be back up and running. So every federal agency must have a COOP site to go be able to work. And so each year we put together an exercise to make them go through that activity, that exercise. This year we did something very real, which is the New Madrid Fault earthquake, which if that happened, Kansas City would be kind of the front line on that. We see St. Louis, Memphis, Little Rock would pretty much be offline together. So we looked as far as how this would affect us. Most of the time in something like this, it's going to affect the infrastructure as far as public utilities, water, and such like that. We talked about pods. We had a tabletop exercise sponsored by many of the agencies you see up there, CDC and the Health Department and FEMA. So this was, again, the first national exercise for what is called the Last Mile Project. And that's that pilot program of getting federal employees out into the civilian workforce after the emergency. Any questions on emergency preparedness or what we do? I'm either really good or you're really quiet. Okay, workforce development and support. And this is where we spend a lot of our time trying to grow our workforce. And we'll talk about we'll go into briefly some of our current initiatives. We do have a partnership with the Army Management Staff College. We appreciate that. So they allow us a certain amount of positions in each course to send civilians or civilian federal employees up to go through that. We have a Federal Emerging Leaders Development Program that's focused towards GS 9s through 12s. So trying to teach those new, the next FEB members to be prepared and what to look for. We also work with OPM on the Heartland Leadership Development Program. That is OPM's premier development program. It's a 6-month program. They come in DC and do that. We work with the KU Advanced Leadership Training, same training that the students here in the General Staff Command College go through with KU. We also offer that to our civilian folks. We offer a President's Management Council Interagency Rotation Program. That allows a high-level GS 13, 14, or 15 to do a 6-month rotation at another agency to kind of get an idea of what other activities are out there. That also allows other agencies to offer projects. Some of the projects they've been trying to work on for a long time and they haven't had the resources that allow someone with a different perspective to come in. We had someone, for example, we had someone from VA come in and work at Trade Doc this past year, and I see some nods going on that's, again, kind of helping with the distant learning platform. Let's see. Executive Women in Motion, again, looking at ways to get more women involved in the senior executive service or into leadership qualities. A lot of leadership training and workforce development. We had government productivity training, which is time management, conflict resolution training, A Winning Culture in Government by Frank Covey. We offer a 5-day supervisory training course. So again, if you think about this, supervisory training course, there's 10 agencies every year that have, of course, they're going to send their new supervisors to their headquarters and learn a little bit about that. But before then, they have these brand new supervisors they promote in October. But okay, so what do I do? So instead of sending 10 agencies to DC for what's basically the same training, we do it here locally. That way, there's no cost of travel. We usually do the presenters a lot less expensive here in the Midwest than DC. So again, there's tremendous cost savings in that. And we'll go show you what we did with that. We offer a 2-day neuroscience of leadership, as far as thinking through the head and the heart, as far as how to develop employees. We also continue to offer like 6 core competency leadership environment. So a lot of leadership classes that go into that. We also work on soft skills training, business writing and grammar skills. It's surprising what the demand is, as far as there's really a need for people to go back, maybe even being out of school for so many years, going back and learning a little bit more about business writing grammar. We offer monthly webinar series on different subjects. We have an instructor development training, so that's a 1-week training that we teach people how to facilitate. We also have the facilitation training. And then one of the things we did also included Leavenworth this past year is, trying to help the silver tsunami. Everyone know what the silver tsunami is? Okay. Some of us are more silver than others. I got a little bit here. So that is the federal workforce that is eligible to retire. The fact is 40% of the federal workforce is able to retire in the next 10 years. So how can we get them ready for that? OPM encourages every agency to offer their employees or to touch their employees at least 3 times during their career on how to best save for their retirement. So what we do is we offer multiple pre-retirement seminars throughout the year. Last year we had over 650 different federal employees and spouses attend those. We also offered, for those folks that were going to retire but weren't sure what they were going to do, we offered a life after retirement program. So if they wanted to start their own small business or volunteer, some of the things they could think about at that. And one of the biggest comments we get out of the pre-retirement seminars is, I wish I would have had this 30 years ago. So we also offer early/mid-career life planning, where we bring in the thrift savings plan, and we bring in the people that are very knowledgeable of saving from, in your 20s on up. So that happens in June every year. On top of that, we do have one of our councils is the Diversity Education Training Committee. So this is, they offer monthly programs as far as also community outreach. We do a recognition event each year on Public Employees Recognition Day. We actually are kind of unique. We're the only place in the country that actually does a recognition that is combined of federal, county, and city employees. And so we do that during the first full week of May of each year. And then we also offer alternative dispute resolution cadre. So, shared neutrals, are any of you familiar with that? Okay, so we have, currently we have 93 certified mediators. So if you have a workplace conflict between maybe a manager or an employee or just 2 employees, you could call our hotline number and we can send out a neutral party to basically try to mediate that dispute. Now, the importance of mediating that dispute is if if it goes to a full EEO complaint, right now OPM says it's $83,000 for every OPM or EEO complaint. So through our program, we have 77% success rate. So again, it's free of charge, one simple call or one simple email, you're set up and you have a good chance of actually getting that resolved. Just out of those conflict resolutions last year, we saved the federal government $1.4 million. So another thing we do is response to recruiting and retention. So we offer training on reskilling. We look at programs that we can help with people that are just coming into the government. We maintain a human resource committee. We share information from DC, from the Chico Council. Sometimes we hear a lot that, I'm glad you sent it out because we don't get the message from Chico until about a month later. We have a HR public outreach. We also have an intern enrichment program. So for interns or pathway students that come into the summertime, we have an enrichment program where we send them to different agencies to see what the government really does in the community. Altogether, between the cost savings of the costs of what we were able to show from doing a training here in Kansas City compared to somewhere else and managing ourselves, does not count the travel cost or per diem rate. We were able to save the government almost $3 million last year. So again, a drop in the bucket, but who says we're not trying to save money, right? Any questions on the workforce development? Yes.
As you look at workforce development, you talked about your intern program. Do you also interact with community colleges or universities to help tailor skills?
So, do we work with community colleges and university tailor skills? So, thank you for this segue, because I'm going to talk about another pilot program that Kansas City is doing. So, Kansas City is the pilot city for what's called the Government to University Initiative. And the Government to University Initiative is kind of what it sounds like. It's basically a way to get more students involved in the government or thinking about public service. Now, the fact is, the harsh reality, I told you that 40% of the government is ready to retire in the next 10 years. Less than 8% of the current federal population in the civilian, not necessarily military, is under 30. So it's even worse with IT, because in IT it's less than 4%. So there's a huge need across the country. So one of the things that we've been working with the Volcker Alliance. Volcker Alliance is a think tank out of New York City. Many of you may be familiar with Paul Volcker. He was the chairman of the Federal Reserve back in the 70s and 80s. So he started the alliance to get people more engaged with public service, or making government service a more beneficial for the citizens themselves. So they chose us to be the first city for this initiative. They did a 5-city roundtable, town forum, came back and said, Kansas City, we're going to stand this up. So part of the initiative, I'm going to talk about some of the things we've done here in Kansas City in just the last 4 months to try to get that going. I'm going to kind of put it into like the vehicle mode, because again, we're talking about the engine, so the talent pipeline. We're looking at, OneGov capability. So instead of, we go out to an agency fair, instead of 20 different federal agencies talking about, they're representing themselves, going into it about OneGov, because we have hundreds of folks that go through the fairs, but we don't have a chance to touch each of them. So we want to get in front of them and talk about, what it's like to be in the government. And then, by the way, this is what Fort Leavenworth has to offer for you. Support some of the GTU work groups as regional recruitment platform and the talent to industry program. So that is a database program that we're working with the universities and showing what the needs are in the local area. And then they're also looking at USA jobs and what are the common jobs in the federal government we need. The transmission, the research, and data. We are also the city, I would say, is a winner, or the area was a winner. Volcker and Voker, Mid-America Regional Council, or MARC, and Johns Hopkins University won a GEAR award from GSA and OMB. That award will allow training for 250 local individuals to get trained on data research and how to properly use data. So they're hoping to ramp that up, and that, we're starting to identify those individuals that we can train to that. So again, look at the capstone level, matchmaking services. We're doing a lot more as far as going into the classrooms. So if we have someone that we know, Park or KU, for example, we try to get an engineer from Corps of Engineers to go in and talk to the engineering group and just kind of a pitch. This is what the government does. We're also been talking to some of the industries. For example, with Black & Veatch, they know we can never pay as much as Black & Veatch for engineer. However, there's a lot of engineers that come out of school. They're looking for the money, but then they get a family. They're looking for the time. So that's where we're working with the talent to industry. Hey, you know what? Maybe you tell them, go work for the government for a while. Encourage them to do that and come back out. We have to get out of the norm as far as thinking, especially with recruiting. The government is, they've kind of their own worst enemy, because we'll go in there and we'll say, come have a career with the federal government. So now millennials don't necessarily, or what are we now? Are we middle? Gen Z, thank you very much. So Gen Z really does not want to necessarily have a career, okay? A majority of them will stay for 2 or 3 years and go to another job. And that's fine. That's what we need to really pitch. Come work for the government for 3 years. That's what we're looking for. Come be vested in the government, then go leave. Go find another position that you like. It might be within the government, because quite frankly, the government has every job underneath the moon, and on the moon for that matter. So again, you may be just transferring from one agency to another, but go get vested and then go back out. You want to come back to the government? That's great. So again, we have to re-educate ourselves as far as how we're making the pitch and to the new generation. And we're doing that with the classroom encounters. So we're doing more of going inside the classroom and talking about that. Site visits, we're bringing also the classrooms out. So we're taking them to, bringing them to EPA and learning what EPA does in the field, or Fish and Wildlife, going out to reserves and seeing exactly what's happening there. The engagement initial period, again, first 6 months, we've been working on those classroom encounters, site visits. You see UMKC with EPA. We've brought the different sides together. We had 40 federal employees, or 40 federal managers together to talk with KU and several other universities as far as what the need is. The talent to industry, and then we've worked on practitioner survey. And it is interesting when we did a survey just in the Kansas City area right now. Most of them, again, the only outreach they're doing is talking about USA jobs. I mean, that's really all they're doing. They're not going out and they're not getting to the universities. So, lessons to date, the review mirror, we need devoted leadership. So we're looking for those champions. We need to make sure that we have capacity. So we're utilizing some of the opportunities. We talked briefly as far as the opportunity we have with the Public President's Management Council's InterAgency Rotation Program. So we actually, the FEB did a application and trying to utilize those programs to staff these positions. So, and again, that win-win-win all the way around. When we kind of sit down and we talk to universities and we talk to the students, I mean, it's just letting them know that we're here for you, regardless of whether you come to work for us or not. We're working for you, and this is a path of a public servant. Going to the last line of business, strategic partnerships. With that, our organization oversees the combined federal campaign. So thank you right now for your consideration of donating to the combined federal campaign. Last year, locally, we raised over $1 million. We also do really anything philanthropic that is spread among many agencies we're involved in. One of the things we're proud of, for 27 years, we've had a Day of Caring, which we've had multiple projects on charitable organizations throughout the community. So over $100,000 in value to the community last year. Other support to the community, we have a regional wellness council, a small business networking event that we do every month. We have a Veterans Affairs Committee. We have a Young Government Leaders group as well. And then again, we support the volunteer opportunities of Toys for Tots, Harvesters, Feds Feeds Families, school drives, the whole bit. So some of the other strategic partnerships, we work directly with the Chamber of Commerce of Greater Kansas City, the 21 Club, we work with them, the Mid-America Regional Council, Development Council. We were along with them to make the pitch to the new USDA offices to say this, and I can't say enough as far as the Area Development Council, what a great pitch they made to USDA. I felt really good about living in Kansas City after I heard that pitch. But we were able to be involved in that just to say, once you come down to the ground, once you set in the ground in Kansas City, this is the federal support we're going to be able to offer you because you're automatically a FEB member. We work with the UMKC and other universities, the Simon Center. You can see there, U.S. Census Bureau, we're helping stand up their effort for next year, and we also have congressional days, hosting with the congressional offices as well. So, if you would like to learn more about the FEB, you can go either to our website, which is kansascity.feb.gov, or if you want to find out the next place that you may be deployed to or such, you can go to feb.gov and bring up any of those 28 FEBs, learn a little bit more about the network. So, but if you have any questions, here's our information. And you can email me direct if you want. Like I said, I'm the only one in the office right now, so the email goes to the same place. But again, I can't stress enough, I work for you. When we're all working for the public to try to have a better nation. So anything that I can do to assist you on your mission, please let me know. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.